Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys another video here today to talk about for the first time Overwatch 2. We saw the leaks, we knew it was coming. Jeff had a funny little skit about it, and I think it's perfect. I honestly think that this game, Overwatch 2, is exactly what we needed it to be. To appease everybody and leave nothing left behind and move forward. Obviously there were like concerns about like exactly what it was, and I made a video explaining what Overwatch 2 had to be, and I was right. I was on the money. It's not a replacement for Overwatch 2 that like completely nullifies it or just trashes it and becomes a completely different game. So, but I understand, the initial confusion about, okay, it's called Overwatch 2. Why is it called Overwatch 2? What does this mean for Overwatch 1? Blah, blah, blah. I think the simplest way to look at it is that Overwatch 2 is an Overwatch story game mode that we all been clamoring for. It's got cutscenes, cinematics, and co-op, PvE, AI, enemies, and that's what Overwatch 2 is. And if you buy it, you also get Overwatch 1 for free. Overwatch 1 isn't going anywhere. It's staying the same. It's still the game that we're going to be playing, competitively, PvP, and that, the Overwatch League will be playing. They're going to be playing it on Overwatch 2, but it's still Overwatch. So I think that's the simplest way to look at it. Overwatch 2 is this cool story mode Overwatch game, and you also get the first Overwatch game combined with it. It's like a free add-on, right? So Overwatch 1 is Overwatch 2 just minus the story mode stuff, because the competitive, PvP mode that we know is going to get all the support. So if you don't buy Overwatch 2, you will still get any future maps, any future characters and features and balances and patches. So the PvP modes in Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 are the exact same game. You actually can even cross-play. Overwatch 1 players and Overwatch 2 players can play with each other because they're just playing that portion of the game that's exactly the same. So bit of a confusion there, Overwatch 2, it's definitely a new thing that Blizzard's doing. It's kind of an expansion, it's also kind of a sequel, but it's only the story is going forward and the multi PvP is kind of the same. So I understand how that's kind of confusing, especially since the word expansion doesn't really work with anything that's not an MMO. Really the only expansions that still exist are in MMOs, and basically they're only World of Warcraft, the thing that pretty much started expansions. I don't think the first, but I think even Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction was before that. But it was PC games because we didn't have DLC content because internet wasn't really a thing for gaming then. And the really only expansions you still see are in World of Warcraft and Destiny, which is also owned by Activision Blizzard, although it's whatever. So it's just, you're just getting a story mode plus you're getting the old game. So people are we throwing away everything that we worked for just 3 years? Why a sequel just 3 years later? So I think they handled this perfectly. It's not affecting Overwatch 1 at all. In fact, we're getting more content for Overwatch 1 when Overwatch 2 comes out. We have the new push game mode, which will be a core PvP mode that the Overwatch League people will be playing. It's a tug of war thing, much more team deathmatchy than I think any of the others, where spawn killing is going to be a much bigger thing, and wide open brawls and flanks. Finally we'll have a reason to have certain characters that haven't been in the meta for over a year. We haven't seen Tracer in over a year and a half at this point in the meta. There might be finally a reason to use her, and spawn camping with Widow lines of sight. That can be a thing, and maybe Winston and Diva could be meta once again. It's because it's been a long ass time since then. But they started off with the 0 hour short, and if you have not seen this 8-minute short, it's gee willikers, is it fucking amazing. This was, I think, the best cinematic that they've done, and a fantastic way to, give us the same feel as the opening cinematic trailer for Overwatch 1. It's like it's so optimistic, and it's just the teamwork, the camaraderie, friends coming together and working with each other. It really, gosh, those people do such a good job with those cinematics. I thought like maybe before the Genji Hanzo one was probably the best one because of the way that story ebbed and flowed. You had pain, you had guilt, and you had the fight and letting it go. That was brilliant. And you had the parallel story with the dragons, right? And you also we've been given such great cinematics. Like all of them have just been home runs. Being able to see the personal side of D.Va outside of what the media shows, it's completely different. And McCree saying that, the old Winston's bringing the team back together. They want me, but they need you. So it will be interesting to see how Echo fits into the game. Is she super integral to Overwatch 2 from a story perspective working? That she isn't playable? Maybe she is. We know Sojourn's coming. We saw what is definitely a highlight intro for her. And I think we also saw definitely a new highlight intro for Tracer. And everything, so like the differences between the PvP of Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2 is it might be nothing outside of graphical updates, because Overwatch 2 we've seen people play it already in the PvP in the new push mode. Characters have redesigns, although they did say you can still use the old vanilla original skins. Everything from Overwatch 1 transfers to Overwatch 2, all your cosmetics, all your icons, emotes, highlight intros. So, some people were worried about that. Absolutely quelled that worry right out the gate. And some UI improvements and some graphical improvements as well. And it's built on the same engine, but, kind of revamped. So obviously Overwatch 1 is going to get the same, giant patch to, gussy the game up. But, maybe it won't look quite as sharp. Maybe we don't get those new Overwatch 2 remade skins. Maybe we don't get that, but the core game is going to be exactly the same. Maybe the UI is different. Maybe they transfer it over. I think they should, and they probably will, but there's still a little bit to be left in the air. And of course we have the PvE story missions. You have the story mode, and then you have the hero mission. Story mode is what we've all been begging for. We have cinematics. We have teams with all the new abilities. Are just so cool at the way that they decided to approach this by leaving the core game alone and just doing this thing separately, as well as giving us more. What we liked about the PvE missions from Overwatch 1, whether it be Junkenstein or the London uprising attack, or the latest one where we got to see that Predator Omnic and when Maximilian going up against him and catching him. That was fantastic. But this multiplayer, it offers so much more. With you kind of like progress like a MOBA, in that you'll level up in game and unlock new abilities, but at the end of the game, then or at the end of the story or something. I don't know if it's going to be different per mission, but you're just leveling up in mission, right? It's not like a full-fledged, RPG style thing where you level up and spec into a skill tree. You just have a couple of choices, for each few chunks of levels. So it's simple, but it allows for creativity, and it makes every role, because we've seen some footage, it makes every role feel more fun and more integral. Sometimes if you've tried to play the PvE and be like, all right, we need to have someone play Reinhardt here, sometimes it's kind of fun and I need to be able to charge these big, health enemies and get them out of the way. So that's kind of my role, but sometimes I'm just there holding shield. Not so much with this. Everyone it's just such a more fluid, more team-focused thing, and they did such a good job of, giving everyone more powers. They have the same powers from the multiplayer, but some different iterations on them and making them stronger. And I think it's really, really cool what they decided to do there. So we've only seen the Rio mission, but we did not get to see so far for BlizzCon. Maybe they'll show maybe something else in the next couple days. But the hero missions, which is what they bill as the super duper replayable missions that you can just do over and over, and every single map in Overwatch 1 is going to have its own playable hero mission on that map, and the objectives are different every time. So we didn't, until we get to see gameplay of that, it's going to be kind of hard to wrap our head around what it's going to be like. But the way that I feel, or slash hope, it's kind of like Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, in that you're on a map where enemies are going to be spawning all over the place with different objectives. Maybe it's not wave based. Maybe it's like, shorter than, your ME3 multiplayer matches, which if you haven't played, one of the best, I would say it's the best multiplayer mode ever made. And in that game, you had to select through a variety of different characters that had all different kind of abilities that, you could spec into different kinds of upgrades and stuff, a little bit more complicated than the Overwatch upgrades that we've seen, but still very similar. So they say that you'll play a mission and then, the objective will be different, or the enemy type will be different. And that to me just rings like, that sounds a little bit like Mass Effect 3, where you would have, you would face 1, 2, 3, 4 different enemy groups for that fight, and you would have randomized different objectives to do. So I hope it's going to feel a little bit like that. I don't think it's going to be just like it. That'll be, 10 waves and, take between 8 to 12 minutes to do. And obviously you have the different difficulties to ramp up, and, the different synergies that you can make co-op, because in the hero missions, you can pick any hero that you want. So there's, different ways to either handicap yourself or really push and, play the meta or do whatever for any specific map. So I think that is really cool and definitely key and really important, because they build it as this is the replayable mission. They said it was kind of like adventure mode in Diablo, which I kind of get what they're saying, although it's nothing like adventure mode in Diablo. It's like, this is the thing that you'll just keep coming back to and play over and over and over again, and not get sick of it, because you're trying to do better with different characters, going up, trying out different things with different combinations of characters. So I think that's really cool, and that's what I'm most excited to see, because they're billing that as like the best thing that you're gonna like the most. But obviously we're gonna get a ton of missions, one for every single map, including we're having 3 new maps that are probably all going to be push maps, and we're also getting at least 1 new map for every single other game type, and you get a hero mission in every single one of those. So we're getting so much content, so much replayability in those. And obviously we have the story mode, which you're gonna flesh way more into the lore and the relationships and moving forward. And it's I'm super hyped. I could not be more pleased with what we were told and what we were shown, whether it be the improved engine that it's on and the different redesigns. Finally seeing the story go past the recall short where Winston recalled all the Overwatch mates, and we're gonna see how everyone else gets into this. Maybe obviously we'll probably have Talon missions as well, and probably do some Junker missions, and then we have to see how different other people who aren't associated with Talon or Null Sector or Overwatch, where do they kind of fit in, like the newer ones like Diva, and we obviously are introduced to Lucio in one of the first story missions in Rio de Janeiro. So all of that will be super, super cool to see. And obviously they said we have the 41 characters plus more. We know Sojourn's going to be in there, but we're probably not going to hear about her for a while. This game's probably at least a year out, I would say. I think they can't wait too long, but we do know Overwatch 1 is still going to be getting content, plenty of content before Overwatch 2 comes out. But when Overwatch 2 does come out, it's just going to be a huge dump of free content for Overwatch 1 players as well, because we're still playing the same PvP game. So super psyched for every single aspect. There are some people, I'm sure you've seen footage and reactions of people who got to play on the field, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, pro players, and everyone seems to be really enjoying the story missions, even if they thought they wouldn't. And we obviously have a new PvP game mode. And people are still wondering about buffs and nerfs and new characters and what the the metagame needs, but I think everything we've seen is fantastic because Overwatch 1 is not being touched. We're getting more of it, and for free. You don't even have to buy Overwatch 2 if you're just interested in PvP, but if you are interested in story and PvE, maybe there's plenty of people who got into Overwatch as their first shooter, and they're kind of turned off by the toxic nature of having have teammates and PvP and going up against jerks and stuff like that. So some people will be like, okay, I finally have my PvE thing. I loved playing the PvE events, but they would always disappear from Overwatch 1. Now Overwatch 2 has all of that in spades, and it can play over and over again. It's not going to get stale. And, obviously it leaves the door open for future updates. Like, hey, we're adding, these new missions for free, or, for $5, $10, whatever. I don't care. I'm going to get it all. It all looks amazing. I'm already Tracer. She's my bae. I'm going to main her, obviously, on the story as much as I can. But everything looks so much fun. And they handled this so well about having a sequel so early after a very successful launch of another of their original game, but not abandoning it at all, and giving people the story that we've been craving for so long. So we finally get to see what they've been working on, but I don't think we're gonna see this for a bit. Some people were speculating, or they heard leaks and rumors that it's coming out early next year. If it was coming out early next year, we would already know that. There would already be a date. If it was coming out February, March, May, even June, we would already have that date. But so the fact that we don't have a date, and the fact that video games take a long time to make, and obviously this thing hasn't been worked on, since the first game came out. It's not like we finished Overwatch 1, now let's start Overwatch 2 while still making content for Overwatch 1. We don't know when they started, but it obviously hasn't been in development for, 3 or 4 years. Especially and with the story and the comics being canceled and things like that. So there was definitely a redistribution of priorities and story, and hiring all the other writers and stuff like that. So I think they handled this perfectly, and I'm super psyched, and you should be too. If you have any other questions or comments, leave those in the comments below. And hopefully we get to see new stuff on the PTR, and I'm sure this thing will have a beta before it comes out. It just has way too much content. Hopefully they give a closed beta to people who own the first game, and then have it open to everybody else, or at the very least do something like that. And I think there's no reason for them not to. So, man, good time to be an Overwatch fan.